Hey, how you doing? This is a response to Yusef's video. Actually, he did a couple of these on this one particular subject. Um, I don't know if I'll ever even have the guts to send it because I think you would be shocked and insulted. My response, I don't know. I do think what you're talking about is absolutely necessary. So I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm going to say, um, because, yeah, it's completely inconsistent, um, and very distressing because of the effects that it has of misrepresentation and things like that. And you know, I've talked some about it. I think I've put up like maybe one or two videos expressing some of these difficulties that I had. Um, that what you say is absolutely what happened to me. This was the representation that I had, so I stayed well and far away for so many years, um, because that was the only exposure that I had, and there was nothing that really, whatever, I don't know how to explain, um, prompted me to look any further. um, so that was my own uh, stopping point, just on my own, and just didn't pursue it. Um, I think for myself, just on one level, I definitely would not jump into this because one of my most irritated and hated things is, like quote ping pong or something. I don't know what else you'd want to call it, where people just are throwing, precious little quotes around. I find that so disturbing, um, because they are so precious and they're used in such a little way. It's so petty. Um, it really upsets me. So that part alone. Um, and I even wrote this to you too about just all the ways in which I was burned by people whenever they would, try to introduce anything to me or whatever. The way they were so condescending, so insulting, so judgmental, just everything opposite of, you know, a warm, loving, patient, kind, you know, person who says that that's the presence of the God that they believe in. Well, but you can't express any of that. That was my experience. So, why should I believe that this is anything at all? Because, people talk about it in such a way, and they want you to believe, their little story, but it doesn't have any obvious change in effect in their life. So, those kinds of things, I don't know if I could say to a person who's being one of those ways. Do you realize that you're, blah da da, being very judgmental or whatever? It's like, wouldn't you have to speak in the opposite, maybe even to sort of, you know, bring about to their understanding the effect of what they're saying and how it differs from what they claim to believe in. Um, there's also another aspect of people's misunderstanding from years and years of whatever their background is, and that people will just fall into camps and maintain those because their parents did or what have you, whatever reason, and that they won't even give a chance to consider something else. For instance, like when they said, no, we don't read the church fathers and da 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 da, and that you were like, you didn't want to know, you were like, it doesn't matter why. um, stuff like that is kind of like, you know one person expects the other to have read, and the other person, just yeah, they have no interest, and the mind just gets so closed and so fixed some certain ideas, and then they get into this defense mode where they can't even really decide any longer what exactly they're defending, but they just get into a stance of defending it just for the sake of their own personal pride and honor, what they believe to be honor at that point, which really, because it's pride, it is not. um, and there's so much misinformation. I mean, and yet I think you could do so many history lessons for everybody, and still, I mean, people come down to these things where, like, they still think that the missionary position is because of the missionaries. It's like, that's completely false. But who believes that? Who knows that? I was actually taught in school that the Dark Ages was from the Christians. I really was taught that. Thanks, Chicago Public Schools. That's what they did for me. Um, there's just so much of that, and I'm I don't think that what you're talking about is unreasonable. I don't think that what you're asking for is something that shouldn't be done anyway as a matter of course. I would think to a certain degree. For me though, because I've maybe I hope that I've been a Christian for what, 11 seconds in my life. I feel like I would be standing on the most thin ice of anyone, that there would be no place for me to go. um, and I wonder if I would get so irritated that I would like just lose my composure and patience, because I would be so frustrated, and maybe because it would just reignite all of the painful experiences that I had, with people who liked to throw that word around, Christian. And that's the other thing I was going to mention, is the definitions of the words that are used amongst Christians have diametrically opposed definitions. And when you're talking about one thing and they're talking about another thing and they're using the same word, it doesn't have the same definition. And I just think maybe it would even have to start with that, just definitions. What are the definitions? Because I think those aren't even agreed upon. So I don't mean to put any kind of a damper. Believe me, I don't, because I would love to see how this would really ignite some good dialogue between people. I would really like to see that. And I didn't know if you simply meant here on YouTube, or you meant even in your life, whomever you come across, to talk with. So I think I need to stay on the sidelines while I'm watching this hockey game, because I'm really scared it's going to be like that. Just because that's what I'm so accustomed to seeing, and it's so painful to be on either side of it. So I don't know. But if you have any ideas about those things that I asked, I would like to hear. And I'm glad that you expressed all this, because it's going to be interesting to see who acquiesces and who lives up to that, because I think that was some of the things that were missing in some recent collaborations, I'll call them. Anyways, well, thanks to everyone else, and peace, Yusef.